Welcome back. 21 years. It's been 21 years since the Minnesota Twins won in the postseason in baseball, and they've done it. Now, they've done it at the expense of the Toronto Blue Jays, who scored a grand total of 1 run in 2 games. The lifting of Barrios, taking him out of the game, I'm sure that's going to be talked about a lot, rightfully so. I do wonder if the manager is going to be out for the Toronto Blue Jays. I also have some questions about the hitting coach. I have questions about various parts of the team and how it's put together. And in the offseason, there's some free agents, there's some moves that need to be made. And so the question then becomes, do you trust the general manager to make those moves? The Toronto Blue Jays are in a position not entirely unlike the Toronto Maple Leafs, although I don't feel like the Toronto Blue Jays are as good during the regular season as the Toronto Maple Leafs have been. But the storyline is very similar in that they make the playoffs, there's expectations, and they don't live up to them. So in sports, that means somebody's got to pay the price. In this case, it may very well be a lot of people associated with the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm happy for the Twins. I mentioned before that I would be cheering for whoever won this series to win the World Series. Now they're moving on to Houston, right? So that's going to be something. And we've got Texas going up to Baltimore. So those four teams should be highly entertaining series and all of that. But it's got to be tough for the Jays. They mentioned that Bassett doesn't even get into the series, doesn't even get to pitch. And I felt bad for Kikuchi coming in there because you're coming in cold as a reliever. Kikuchi's a starter, right? So anyways. We'll see what happens. It's one of those things. It felt like it was an analytics move when they took Barrios out, and whether it was analytics or not, it was the wrong decision. But again, you've only got 1 run in 2 games. You can't just throw the pitchers under the bus or a decision made about a pitching change. In general, in baseball, if you limit your opposition to 5 runs in 2 games, you should be in those games. It shouldn't be a situation where you're already gone home. But best 2 out of 3, they're gone home. It's interesting too because before this series got started, I thought that the Jays got a better matchup with Minnesota than they would have with Tampa. I know Tampa Bay would have had a better matchup with Toronto than they did with Texas, but it just doesn't feel like Toronto has it. I do think that Vladdy could be on his way out. A lot of criticism to Vladdy. I think sometimes it's a bit overstated, but you need those hits. You need those hits, and you're not getting them. And his numbers are not exactly where you'd want them to be. Again, for the amount of money being spent and all. So we'll see who stays. We'll see who goes. So the question I have is for people watching this: do you think that the Twins now get stopped in the next round by Houston, or do you think the Twins have a real chance here? The team that allowed 1 run over 2 games, is that something they're going to be able to carry on? Or are they going to have their struggles in the next round against a team that will probably hit better than the Jays did? The Jays hitting just not good enough. The Jays pitching was fine. But again, and it's a storyline we had during the regular season when I was talking about them losing and looking like they weren't going to get into a playoff spot. Before they rallied and got into a playoff spot, it was really a matter of they weren't getting runs. Their pitching was fine, but they weren't getting runs. And so their pitching would fold later in games, probably in part because there's so much pressure on the pitching when there's no hitting, when there's no run support coming for the pitchers. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yes, I absolutely dug out my Minnesota Twins jersey today because I'm like, they're winning. And I put this on in the 7th inning. It didn't jinx the Twins. The Twins are apparently unjinxable, and it didn't help rally the Blue Jays either. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.